In this lesson, we will attach the eyebrows and hair to follow our facial deformations. We can use the skin wrap modifier to glue the hair and eyebrows to the face, and that's going to save us a lot of time. As you can imagine, if it wasn't for that, we'd have to kind of guess our weighting, and that would be really tough in areas that blend, like at the back of the head, or even how the eyebrows have been weighted to give us some really natural looking results. Can you imagine reweighting the eyebrow geometry the same exact way? Again, that would require a lot of time and effort. So thankfully, we don't have to do that. We can just go ahead and use that skin wrap modifier. Let's go ahead and take a look at how it works. We'll unfreeze our model layer. We could also get rid of the temp layer now, because in the next lesson we'll be rigging the tongue. So with the temp layer selected, we'll choose Select Objects. And now let's go ahead and highlight our model layer and choose Add. So we'll add those objects back, and we can now get rid of the temp layer. Let's start with the hair. So with that selected, we'll go ahead and find the skin wrap modifier. We'll press the S key a few times. There it is. So now what we can do is assign the object that it should follow. We'll go ahead and click on Add, and then click on the face. Take a look, it has been assigned. Let's go ahead and click on Add again to exit that mode. And let's start to test this out by grabbing the upper jaw control. We'll go ahead and just rotate that back. Alright, it works great, doesn't it? Now you can see there are some points that are kind of staying behind, but we have settings that we can use to fix this. Watch this. Let's go ahead and select the hair, and we'll start to adjust our values. Now the fall off, as we increase this value, it's going to cause points to pull closer to our control vertices. So these points here that stray should start to pull closer to the deforming surface. Let's start to increase that. Alright, great. And now what we can do is adjust the distance influence. The higher this value goes, the smoother our deformations will be. So watch this. Now that we have the fall off up high, we'll go ahead and bring the distance influence up high as well. And now you can see that our points are basically glued down. We also have the face limit that we could use, and this is going to help prevent points from welding together when they should be spread apart. Alright, so this looks pretty cool. Let's go ahead and start to move the upper jaw control around just to make sure everything looks well. I might start by just zeroing it back out by using transform to 0. It looked kind of tricky with the style of hair that the character has. I almost thought that those points were still pulling. I was like, what's going on? But they're not. It's just a really cool hairstyle that I might have one day. Alright, so now with our control still selected, we'll go ahead and use transform to 0 to bring it back. So we now have the settings we can use for the eyebrows. But you can see, again, this is a time saver here, this skin wrap modifier. Let's go ahead and grab the left eyebrow, and we'll go ahead and find that same modifier. We'll press the S key a few times. There it is. We'll assign the face. So let's click on Add, click on the face. And then we can right click to exit the Add mode. Alright, so look, it remembers our settings. Let's make sure that these settings work. We'll go ahead and grab, let's say, our mid control, and we'll start to move that around. So you can see it doesn't follow as well as we'd like. So here's what we can do. We can start by kind of pulling up our control object here. We'll grab the brow, and we'll start to adjust things like our distance fall off. Let's go ahead and drop that so we get a more accurate result. Alright, great. So 2 looks like it works out very well. We also have our fall off that we can modify, so we can start to adjust that. And then keep in mind that what matters is the high-res head, not the low-res. There might be a little bit of interpenetration when using the low-res head. So what we could always do is kind of test things out a bit. Let's go ahead and grab our control object. We'll leave the settings we have, and we'll use transform to 0 to bring it back. Alright, so what we'll do at this point is just go in and add a mesh smooth to the eyebrow and to the face. So with both selected, press the M key a few times. There it is. Alright, so take a look. It says one or more objects in your selection references another. Alright, so if this happens, You'll basically just need to apply the mesh smooth individually. So take a look, it has been applied to one object. We'll just have to go to the face and apply it to this. Alright, sweet, so that will work. Let's go ahead and grab our control object and we'll start to pull that around. And take a look, those settings work out wonderfully. Alright, so knowing that, we can go ahead and get rid of the mesh smooth node. It's done its job. Taking a look at our settings, looks like about value of 4.8. We might be able to just round that out to about 5. I bet that would work out very well. And it sure does. Alright. It looks like a distance influence of 2 works out great, so we had to drop that to remove that smoothness. Okay, great. So let's say we go ahead and do that for the right brow. With it selected, we'll go ahead and find our skin wrap modifier. Take a look, the settings are already there, so all we need to do is go ahead and click on the face. Let's right click to come out of the tool, and we'll start to move our control around, and it moves great. Alright, fantastic. So we have our eyebrow meshes and our hair following the deformations of the face. Beautiful stuff. So if we decide on using the mesh smooth node again, we just need to make sure that we apply it to each mesh separately, since we have objects that are being influenced by others or referencing the deformations of other objects. So we just have to be really careful about that and make sure that we just go ahead and do things one at a time at that point, so we don't get any warnings, so our scene doesn't crash, because that would be a problem. And that basically wraps up this lesson, so we just have a few more things to do. We have the tongue to rig. We'll get to that in the next lesson. And then following that, we'll get to some facial shapes.